Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Shinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Udayantasto hi Abhadrani Vidunoti Suhritsatam Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter Canto 4, chapter 13, verses 28 to 31. Verse 28. Navidameha devanam elanam vayam anvapi yanna grunanti bhagan swan ye deva karma sakshinaha. Synonyms: not vidhama, confined, iha, in this connection, devanam, of the demigods, helanam, insult or neglect, vayam, we, anu, minute, api, even, yet, because of which, not, runati, accept, bhagan, shares, swan, own, deva, the demigods, karma sakshinaha, witnesses for the sacrifice. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation: Dear King, we do not find any reason that demigods should feel insulted or neglected in any way. But still the demigods who are witnesses for the sacrifice do not accept their shares. We do not know why this is so. Purport: it is indicated herein that if there is negligence on the part of the priest, the demigods do not accept their share in sacrifices. Similarly, in devotional service, there are offenses known as seva aparadha. Those who are engaged in worshipping the deity, Radha and Krishna in the temple should avoid such offenses in service. The offenses in service are described in the Nectar of Devotion. If we simply make a show of offering services to deity but do not care for the seva aparadha, certainly the Radha Krishna deity will not accept offerings from such non-devotees. Devotees engaged in temple worship should therefore not manufacture their own methods, but should strictly follow the regulative principles of cleanliness, and then offerings will be accepted. Verse 29. Maitreya uvacha ango dvijavacha shrutva yajamana sudurmani manaha tat prastum vyas vyasraj vyasarjad vacham sadasyam tad anujnaya. Translation: Maitreya explained that King Anga, after hearing the statements of the priest, was greatly aggrieved. At the time, he took permission from the priest take to break his silence and inquired from all the priests who were present in the sacrificial arena. Verse 30. Nagachanti ahuta deva nah grunati grahan iha sada satspatayo bruta kim avadyam maya krutam. Translation: King Anga addressed the priestly order. My dear priest, kindly tell me what offense I have committed. Although invited, the demigods are neither taking part in the sacrifice nor accepting their shares. Verse 31. Sada saspataya uchuhu nara deveha bhavato nagam tavan manak sthitam asti ekam praktanam agam yad ihidre kvam apraja. Translation: The head priest said, O king, in this life we do not find any sinful activity, even within your mind. So you are not in the least offensive. But we can see that in your previous life you performed sinful activities, due to which, in spite of your having all qualification, you have no son. The purpose of marrying is to beget a son, because a son is necessary to deliver his father and forefathers from any hellish condition of life. in which they may be. Chanakya Pandita therefore says, Putrahinam gruham shunyam. Without a son, married life is simply abominable. King Anga was very pious king in this life, but because of his previous sinful activity, he could not get a son. It is concluded, therefore, that the person does not get a son, it is due to his past sinful life. नमां विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशकारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे राम राम हरे हरे. I like to seek blessings for all the assembled Vaishnavas, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to purify myself. And please forgive me for any shortcomings. So we are in the chapter description of the descendants of Dhruva Maharaj, and so Maitreya was describing the descendants of Dhruva Maharaj, and I think now you know, so we're talking about Anga, and Dhruva Maharaj's descendant is Anga, and his son. Veena. So for last few verses, Vidura and conversation between Vidura and Maitreya, Vidura is astonished that inquiring about Veena, how that sinful son is born for King Anga. And for last few verses, Maitreya is narrating the events, that lead to Veena's birth. And here, uh, King Anga is doing a yajna and he performing the Ashwamedha yajna in which the demigods did not appear even uh, after being invited by the expert Brahmanas. So in the verse 26 and 27, we read that the demigods are not accepting the oblations in spite of all the well collected and uncontaminated sacrificial paraphernalia and also properly chanting of the Vedic hymns. In the coming to verse 28, um, so the Brahmanas were telling that we do not find any reason for demigod not to feel insulted in any way. But after hearing that, King Anga is inquiring, please kindly tell me if I have committed any offenses because of which demigods are not accepting their shares. And in the verses 31 onwards, the head priests are, responding to King Anga's question, inquiry, especially in the verse 31, head priests were telling to King Anga that, we don't see you did any sinful activity even within your mind in the current life, but we can see that in your previous life you performed the sinful activities, because of which, in spite of having all your qualification, you don't have a son. So coming to the verse 28, it talks about um, importance of serving, offering the sacrifices. So, you know, devotional service is also a sacrifices. It has to be done with a lot of purity, chanting the mantras, all the paraphernalia has to be clean and purified, and Brahmana has to recite the Vedic hymns. But even after all those things, it's still difficult to get the mercy of the Lord because everything has to go in plan, and it's not very easy to have all things in place, at least in this Kali Yuga. So, but here for King Anga, even after performing all the rituals properly, but demigods are not accepting. So here, how can we relate, or what we learn from this is how do we do the devotional service without offenses? There are also offenses in the devotional service, known as seva parada, and in Prabhupada mentioned in the purport, those who are engaged in the worshipping the deity Radha and Krishna in the temple should avoid such offenses in the service. So deity worship is also a sacrifice, And basic root of any offense is a negligence or disrespect. You know, and the worship means expression of love and devotion to the object of worship. So the devotion should be spiritual, not the ritualistic. So so one has to do the offerings respectably and avoid the any kind of aparadha. And main thing is, we should not assume, deities are not a, you know, ordinary beings or a stone. Deities has to be respected as a archa vigraha. So and and also, one has to follow the regulative principles. One should not do anything, imagining something in their mind. So that's why one has to follow the guru, sadhu, and shastra. And also, if somebody does any seva aparadha, one way to do get rid of any reactions is to, we always have to beg the forgiveness of from Guru, and offering to Guru the offerings, and then Guru will offer to the Lord. So that is the way one has to follow the offerings. So we should not do any seva prada, and always we have to beg the forgiveness from Guru for any offenses we make knowingly or unknowingly. And also there are different aparadas, nama aparada, Vaishnava aparada, and all these aparadas happens when our heart is not pure. So only way, to purify heart is to connect to the Lord, engaging, all our services, remembering and serving the Lord. And also we have to have a bona fide spiritual master, who can give us a knowledge and give us a shelter, and give us the instructions how to serve and connect with the Lord. And by serving the Guru and Sadhu and Vaishnavas, one can purify their hearts, and they can advance in the spiritual life. Even that, lot of times, we still chant, but we may not be still not experiencing, or doesn't experience the taste, or our mind is wavering and a lot of anxieties, and all this happens because we are not in the nishta stage where we are pure chanting, or we are not still purified at the heart. But again, by the continuing the process, uh, it is sure for certain that we can get purified, and we can connect to the Guru and Krishna. And also, Krishna is omnipresent, and he's present everywhere. So you can live in many millions of the temples simultaneously and live at the same time in Goloka Vrindavana. That is Krishna. So that is the Krishna's omnipotency. So Krishna is very kind, and he accepted appear in the deity form, appear in the name form. So all of them are equally potent, and we should, that's how in this age of Kali one should chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to go back home Godhead. And unlike in the previous yugas, a lot of meditation, or doing a lot of offerings or sacrifices, which they have to do for thousands of years or hundreds of years, and with all those things, it's still not certain that one can fulfill the desire, because doing that long with all the regulations will be difficult to do. And coming to the, verse 31, the reason, you know, demigods are not accepting, and the reason why King Anga has not gotten a son is because of his previous life sins. So we have to be very careful. I don't know how many sins I made and still continue to making the sins, but as yes, it says that, you know, we have to be free of committing any sins, going forward. And also there are a lot of sins we committed, which has to be, we have to, come out of that reactions. So only way to do that is, sincerely chanting and taking a shelter of at the lotus feet of Krishna. So here in the material world, it works under the stringent laws of karma, and there is a equal opportunity, law of equal opportunity, but how one utilizes that opportunity determines their fate and the reactions of the karma. So one has a free will, but one has to act according to the regulative principles and whichever pleases the Krishna or what is as per mentioned in the scriptures. But as you know, when we have a material desires and desires away from Krishna, those are the ones keeping us entangled in this the material world or reaction of the karma. So our no, our human being always active, is always thinking. In service is our nature, but service means offering something. But everything is under the control of supreme will. Nothing happens without the supreme will. But unless we use our desires and our service towards Krishna, we'll be entangled into this life cycle of birth and death. And in the Bhagavad Gita, it has in the 4.17, the intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. So one should understand the nature of karma, vikarma, and akarma, and one must act accordingly. See, this is the law of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the conditional souls who have come to this material world for sense gratification are allowed to enjoy their senses under certain regulative principles. But if they violate these regulations, they are judged and punished by the Yamaraja. So he brings them to the hellish planets, properly chastise them to bring back to Krishna consciousness. So karma, akarma, and vikarma are clearly described in Bhagavad Gita. So the actions which are performed in terms of one's prescribed duties, in the revealed scriptures are karma, and the actions that free from cycle of birth and death are akarma, and the actions that are performed through the misuse of one's freedom and direct one to the lower life forms are called vikarma. So of these three types of action, that which frees one from the bondage to karma is what preferred by the intelligent man. So Srila Prabhupada says, meeting, eating, sleeping, and defending, any living entity can do. There is no need to teach. But taking a human form, one can learn and understand and learn that how to conduct the life with our intelligence, knowing through the shastras, taking the shelter of bona fide spiritual master, one can know the real knowledge, which is connecting to the Lord, serving to the Lord, and always remembering Krishna and not having any desires of the personal motive or material desires. So those are the things we can learn, and with the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and who took up the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, we have at least come in contact with devotees, or we are in the Krishna consciousness based on our Sukruti. So now our only goal is to continue doing our sadhana and associating, reading the books and chanting, and doing the deity worshipping and having the prasadam. I think we can go back to Godhead, in this life if we are very sincere. I think that's what Prabhupada and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has promised. But even though it's easy to say, but it's very difficult to practice. But with the association and mercy of Guru and Sadhu and Vaishnava, I hope we can do that.